You are listening to the ReRACEables Podcast.
Give you a nice little Hello and welcome to the ReRACEables Podcast. I'm your host, Tom. Excited to be here despite that, well, we'll get to it, kind of episode of The Amazing Race. I am joined, as always, by Nicole and Josh. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in.
Thank you.
How's it going?
Okay, folks. So let's cut right to the chase here. That episode was, in one word,
Awful.
good.
You said one word.
I know.
It was painful to watch. I can never get that 90 minutes of my life back. I did not enjoy any of it, actually.
Nicole, one word.
Rough. I mean, I don't think it was quite as bad as Josh is making it out to seem, being a little dramatic. But it wasn't great. The challenges, the contestants' gameplay, it just was rough.
My word is annoying. I mean, it's annoying that people like Anthony and Bailey get on the show and are just whatever, bro. And like, I applaud their ability to be so positive, honestly, because there is no way I would ever keep that level of composure if I was just imploding on the challenges, switching, knowing I'm in dead last, etc.
But it showed that they didn't really care.
Right, which is, I guess, another word, just so disappointing. Like, come on, guys.
Can I just respond and say it actually felt like that across the board. I just felt like people were not running. People were just kind of sitting there, kind of like, darn, oh shucks. Even when they had to get to the mat, almost everybody just like stumbled in. Like nobody was really trying to race. It was just kind of happening.
The other big thing is Sean's fears, Michelle's fears on the heights, on the slopes, at the roadblock on Casa Loma. Like, what was that?
Bizarre. It was bizarre is what it was, and I've lost faith in my number one team.
I've lost faith in my number 3 team. Seriously, like,
Yeah.
Not that heights are going to be involved in everything. And I get that you're afraid of heights. At what point does that counteract by the $1 million prize, the threat of going out, the motivation to beat the team that you're barely in front of?
But also just seeing how they tackled, like, okay, you're afraid of heights. Fine, I get that. The hesitation to find a way to problem solve to make it better for yourself. Like, all right, throw your backpack down there first so you don't have that on you. Like, find another way. Make it happen. And he just froze.
No.
No.
Nah, I'm not doing that.
It's too high. So let's go back, if we can, for a moment to Anthony and Bailey. They are eliminated in 11th place. Josh, what did you see in Anthony and Bailey that we missed on? I had them 5th, way too high, like embarrassingly high. I was betting on the double guy team too much. That was totally my misread. What did you see that we didn't?
This is going back to my lower category, the easy outs, the we're here for the experience. Who's here for the experience? I think I even quoted Anthony and Bailey in this episode saying something like, "Oh, I'm just so glad I could live out my dreams on a boat with my best pal." Like, okay, great. Are you here to win $1 million? No, nah, I'm not climbing that hill. Michelle and Sean, in my mind, also not here to win $1 million. We're still in that category, just getting rid of this kind of dead weight so we can actually watch the competitors. And unfortunately, I feel like we only have 3 or 4 competitors this season. It's really, really unbelievable, painful to watch.
Yeah, it's painful as a person who would love to be on the show, to compete, to win the $1 million. I would face any fear. I would conquer any challenge, no matter what it was. If it was put my hand with snakes and like some of your greatest fears that you could imagine, I'm still gonna, like you said, Nicole, find a way to do it. And the way those guys just the whole time, all of the legs we've seen, no, oh, my brain hurts. Oh, I can't process my brain. And just the inability to persevere, the inability to push through, to problem solve, to figure it out. Like, how do those guys run a business?
No
It
idea.
boggles me. And I wonder if this is becoming a bit of a generational thing, because I see it with a lot of students that I have. When faced with a problem, it's just immediate, I need to give up.
Yep.
There's absolutely no, you know what, let me apply myself a little, in the slightest. It's just, oh, this is hard. Okay, I'm gonna give up. Let's go to the other challenge. Oh, this is hard too. Okay, let's go back. You know what? Let's go back. And it's just ridiculous. Like, the fact that they did not apply themselves at all. It's like they just froze and gave up.
Positive spirit, that can only go so far, especially when you just have no drive. And I mean, it came down to the point where if you're going to do one of the challenges, you got to do one of them. You can't just keep going in between both of them and not choosing either. Like, and it makes for really poor television. It's really painful to watch.
Yeah, and I think that we do a good job of trying to clock what's going on in the race and the teams and their storylines, but also, we're viewers still. We're still fans. We're still trying to watch the show for entertainment and enjoyment. And watching guys, I don't even call it a struggle. It's just a submission to the race.
Well,
It's
yes,
just
you
terrible.
have to actually try to struggle. They didn't try.
Well said. Josh, you said it. We have some teams that are competing to win $1 million. And I think we said this at probably the same point last season with Jocelyn and Victor, and I believe it was the Vietnam leg of the race. And it seemed like the most tailor-made to Jocelyn and Victor leg of the race ever. They could speak the language. They were in a grocery store, picking out and shopping. And I feel like this was as tailor-made, this leg of the race was as tailor-made for Ricky and Cesar, probably even more so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thoughts on Ricky and Cesar's leg of the race overall, and where you kind of see them at this point?
They are just absolutely dominating this game. Dominant and running away to the point where Rod and Leticia were competing with them. Even this episode, Ricky and Cesar smoked the competition. And what I know we're probably going to get into this, but what I want to call out is the beginning of the episode. I know we'll probably talk about the groups and how this is now the amazing group race, whatever that means. But out of the 3 teams that were racing, it was Ricky and Cesar, Rod and Leticia, and
Derek and Shalisa.
I think Ricky and Cesar, they come in last, going up the any sort of flight of stairs, any sort of physical challenge to those 3. How in the world did they get in there first and then dominate? They were almost done with the cooking challenge before the other teams got there. It was really, really wild, and I don't know how they did it. But somehow they are just smoking this competition.
It should be said, Cesar's a chef.
Yes.
The Detour cooking the Bendeja Paisa for the 3 abuelas was literally, couldn't have been more of a strength of theirs, could it?
No, he knew what each meat was. He could speak to the abuelas in Spanish.
Yeah, as he did to the boat drivers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Asking for who was the fastest.
Yeah. It was a lob home run for
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, it wasn't even close. But that being said, did we learn anything else about any of those teams at the top of the leg? At the top of the pit stop? The Rod and Leticia, who dropped from first to fifth, Amber and Vinny, who went all the way up to finish second, Juan and Shane, who just can't quite shake fourth place, despite Juan's background being from Colombia and having made that dish literally for his family. Like any of those teams, Derek and Shalisa kind of having their roles in the kitchen. Are those kind of the teams that are separating themselves, and anything of those teams stand out?
Yeah, I mean, I would call out some of the things that I predicted from the beginning for Derek and Shalisa. He's had such a standoff, you do kind of attitude, and it reminded me of being in his position of being a sergeant, and how she like works under him and has to kind of do what is needed. And then the pink team, I was pretty impressed with. Actually, they kind of came out of maybe not nowhere, because we saw last episode that we talked about how they were actually starting to be stronger, but they really seem to kind of kick it into gear somehow and think about strategy and start making some moves, which was exciting to watch in an episode filled with not a lot of strategy.
I liked seeing Vinny's method for picking the berries. He was the only person who used two hands. That's crazy to me that he was the only person to think to use two hands.
And on top of it, to build on your point, he was the only one that explained a strategy, even in that roadblock,
Yeah.
to try to make up time. Everybody's running all over the place. I'm going to take the ones that were right here. I'm going to crouch in a certain position and use my physical athleticism, or just put the basket in my lap and use both my hands. And they made up time, and they went all the way up to second as a result.
Which is insane. I'm sorry. Keep going.
No, go. No. React.
No, it's insane that they came in second place. They started the leg like in that second group. They were nowhere to be seen for the cooking. And then somehow they just sped past everybody and got second place by a significant margin.
But I think the groups are kind of deceiving because they were only 15 minutes apart. Like every team was on top of each other.
Yes.
So you could go from seventh to second like this, and it's like really not that big of a deal.
And we saw that at the
Even though
pit
it
stop.
should be a big deal, but because of the way that it's orchestrated in these groupings, anybody could jump 5 spots.
Welcome to the amazing group race, folks. It's the end of the show. It's awful. It's awful.
I agree. It is awful. As beautiful as the El Peñon de Guatapé was, and looking at the mountain with the 60 stories of stairs that are somehow on the side of a mountain, the structure of the race and the 3 groups, and it just sucks. It sucks. It just totally diminishes the previous leg. It diminishes the work that you've done to get any sort of lead. I get that we have the all aboard equalizers on the airports, in the airplanes and flights. We don't like those either. And I think we're pretty consistent on liking, if you get a lead, you should be able to keep the lead and keep going. And the group thing, it just diminishes that. And I'm not a fan.
The Amazing Race producers know that, given that we didn't see these groupings last season. So I'm hoping that, after this season, this is the last that we'll see of this.
Well, and also they didn't tell us that it was going to be groupings. I wanted to add that in. Like, they just all of a sudden it's episode 3 and they're leaving in groups.
Yeah.
Like, tell the audience, tell the viewers. So it's not this, okay, I guess we're leaving in groups. Remember that 2 seasons ago, and that wasn't very fun, and we didn't really like that. Well, here it is all of a sudden.
We are not fans of equalizers. However, what I want to add is that when you have an equalizer on a plane, and then as soon as you get off that plane, everybody is running as fast as they can to get away from the other teams. Contrarily, this episode means that they probably flew somewhere and had breakfast and sat down and then said, okay, everyone, we're going to start filming. Let's get in the line. Here we go and go. And then everyone's like, all right, yeah, I'm just going to kind of keep racing. I'm not really doing it. And so I think that clearly showed throughout the episode. The other thing I wanted to add is that when you're racing and you're running and you're dealing with the stresses of bigger than just taking on your next task, you're dealing with travel, you're dealing with negotiation with your partner. I think that's where these natural storylines come out. That's where it's not so weird to be like, oh, I'm so tired right now. It reminds me of when I overcame cancer. I think that those are kind of the human moments that we get to learn about these people, humans, throughout the season. But what we're seeing, though, is without any of that extra aspect of the game, it feels contrived. They're sitting on a boat by themselves and then trying to tell their story about how, oh, last night my grandmother passed away, or oh, I had cancer, or oh, I grew up here. It felt like someone, like one of the camera people said, hey, how are you feeling right now? Tell us about your, it was set up. It felt acting. It felt so contrived. The whole episode, I wrote, everyone looks like they're acting. And it's just, I really believe that. They don't feel like humans. They felt like actors.
And the contrast, I think, also comes because we just spent an hour and a half watching Survivor. And Survivor is the opposite. Survivor is all story. It's all like the backgrounds of people and their traumas and their hurdles in life and their inspirations are front and center of stage. They're front and center stage. It's what makes the show amazing. People are constantly relating to the contestants on Survivor, and I don't feel that connection. And I would like to imagine that a lot of people don't feel a connection with these people either.
To me, the people that come to mind are the cousins.
Kishori and Karishma.
I feel like when you said, like, I feel like they're acting, like, when they speak, it doesn't feel genuine.
Never.
Like, it feels like they're just saying things for the camera.
Their strategy may be to schmooze the abuelas. Okay, abuelas, here we are. Big hand gestures, and we're just going to keep talking at you. Oh my gosh. And then, bum, bum, bum. I love the abuelas. Shout out to the abuelas.
Shout out to the abuelas. Yep.
For shutting them down at least that once, because I think I'm rooting against the pink team.
You definitely are.
I definitely am. I think that's what I'm rooting against. And you know what?
Sorry,
maybe that's a
pink
good
team.
thing. Maybe
sorry, pink team.
Yeah, sorry.
If you're listening, and we know you are.
You got to have a villain. Everybody likes a villain. But can we help you? Oh, we're going to help. We're going to go with you. Okay. Oh my God. We love that team. Hi, Mom and Dad. How are you? How's your cooking? We don't cook meat. I do give them credit for that. Let's just credit them for.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty tremendous to not cook meat and then walk into Colombia cooking challenge. You got to tip your cap to them for that.
I don't buy into this hate on them. I actually do kind of like them. I feel like there's so many like deadbeat teams that I don't care about. They are actually kind of interesting to watch and maybe showing a little bit exaggerated personality, but I feel like they are people, and they're doing something which is more exciting than the other half of the other contestants.
Fair.
Like, have we had any interviews with Yvonne and Melissa? No, I have no idea who they are. What is
like why? Why don't we
out of the season? It's insane.
We never see them.
Yeah.
I wish we had like a
Bill didn't even
time stamp going of how much airtime they got. I think it would be less than 3 seconds.
Bill didn't even address them by name at the mat in 6th place.
Yeah.
Like it's okay. Like Amazing Race, send that a tweet or an Instagram post. Like if they don't win, just edit them out and let's just move this along. So we're not like, who are these people? Why are they this ghost team? Because I think what that does too is that it makes an unfair like balance of like Kishore and Karishma stand out because there's so much personality. They're so chaotic, but it's like you don't even know this other team, so you're trying to grasp on and connect with anything. And I guess when there's nothing to connect with or there's stuff that you just can't connect with, that's how you get villains. That's how you get questions that we're asking here.
I'm so mad. I'm so mad.
So why else did this episode suck? Why
I
else?
think it's just not very exciting to watch people pick berries.
No.
It's just not exciting. Like they need to be thinking about what is exciting to watch people do in a fast manner.
But is this like a COVID thing? Remember, this filmed, what, 2 years ago?
Sick of this COVID
Me
excuse.
too. Me too.
Agreed.
Enough. Make it work.
Right. Find something more exciting.
Yeah.
Like, where was all the colors? Remember, it was like the color town? Like, where was that?
Yeah.
Phil, what you told us
Something
this.
with the umbrellas.
Yeah.
Like, why can't we have an umbrella challenge of some sort?
Like the Friends opening theme, recreated video. Shout out Friends. Josh, why does this episode suck?
I agree. We are also not what's exciting about The Amazing Race is that we get to explore the culture and see the city, and we're not doing either of them. Using some propane grills in the middle of a street where we don't even know what they're trying to cook, and they're reading off directions without having any guide or anybody showing you how to cook or anything. They're literally just in a street using water bottles to pour water on. There's no investment. We're just sitting there saying, okay, cook. I don't know what it's supposed to look like. Oh, the plantains are off. Okay, again, it's such a passive watching that it's not, there's nothing that's tying me in. And to respond to what Nicole was saying, like some of the best challenges have been trying to find a needle in a haystack in the middle of a field, or trying to chase a goat in the middle of a field. Like those things are exciting to watch and have nothing to do with COVID.
Yep. I also think that so far this season, the challenges have not been equal. And so then you see all the teams all picking the same one.
Yeah, literally every team did the cooking.
Yes. And so that's not as interesting to watch either, because now you're seeing everybody do the same one as opposed to seeing something different.
Yeah, we're locked in on that passive street, watching 11 teams cook the same thing.
Yeah.
And actually, we don't even really see them cook anything.
Yeah, and we don't know what it's supposed to look like. That's where it was just like, okay, you're cooking in a street, an arepa, okay, sure, versus the other challenges, we usually see the expert doing the cooking, and what
Right.
it's supposed to look like. And this time they all got there and just read instructions. It's just so poorly planned. Just one more thing. I wrote this down because I thought it was interesting how Ricky and Cesar were cooking and Rod and Leticia were there. And they mentioned something about like, oh, what about the girls in the kitchen? And obviously Ricky and Cesar are gay and they're two boys. And what I thought was really interesting is in the like Derek and Shalisa roles where they definitely took gender into account, and also with Rod and Leticia, I think that there was an understanding that Ricky and Cesar had to work together because there isn't a predominantly woman in the relationship. They are both there to satisfy the same goal and the same task. And I think that's where they stood out from the rest of the other teams, is that they were completely collaborating to get the job done versus backing off and saying, you do it.
And I want to build on that. It's a good point because Juan and Shane was the same thing.
Hmm?
right?
No, I disagree.
Juan was running the show and Shane was taking the orders. Like they had
Okay,
that
yeah,
kind of
that's-
dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they were working, but they
I
were
thought you were
working.
saying they're both guys, so no one was taking lead. No, Juan was taking the
No,
lead.
there was a
because he
clear, like, communication was great.
Yeah.
We are working together. There was trust there. Shane knew, like, Juan, you're the guy. Tell me what you need me to do. And even when he screws up, like the avocado, like, they just fix it and they move on.
Got it, avocado.
Right?
What kind of millennial are you?
Oh, and Sonny and Bizzy, the firefighters.
Mm.
Right? It was great to see them rock this out and tell us the thing that, probably a lot of people, especially New Yorkers, know about firefighters is that they have that whole camaraderie, they're cooking for each other, and like that was kind of second nature to them. If I could bring up one more thing, talking about Sonny and Bizzy, the story of her grandmother, there was the one moment that kind of pierced through and connected. And I don't
Yeah.
want to bash this episode 100% because when in the Roadblock, Sonny was doing the picking of the cherries, and I loved how she made the connection to her grandmother with the abuelas at the Detour, and with just the memories of how her grandmother was raised, and it was just nice to again connect to one of the teams and a real life thing. They had some, what do they call it? An emergency contact or something that seemed like they would never do unless some circumstance like this happened. So I'm encouraged by that, especially for our rankings, Josh. Sonny and Bizzy at number one for us. Perhaps this is a catapult forward for them. Sonny might be racing with a greater intent and purpose, and an added emphasis that she wasn't before. And she did great. And they went up from the lower half of the pack to finish in seventh place. But, from what we could tell, places 3 through 8 were within seconds, if not a few minutes from each other. So it's really that the bottom is the bottom, the top's the top, and that middle of the pack is big. And we said that at the top in our Power Rankings podcast, which you should go check out and listen to if you haven't already. TribalCouncilBlog.com, at TribalCouncilBlog on YouTube. Before we cross the finish line, let's check in with our Power Rankings.
I live for the power rankings every week.
So congrats to Josh, who had Anthony and Bailey at number 12. That's a huge number to come off the board for you, man. So Josh in the last 2 weeks has crossed off his number 13 and his number 12 and his number 9 team with Maya and Rohan coming out of the first episode. So Josh jumps into a healthy lead in first place with a low score of 57. Nicole had Anthony and Bailey 7th, so she drops down to 2nd. And I had them 5th. Again, I blew that one, which puts me in 3rd, 7 points behind Josh.
Our team average rankings blew it as well.
Yeah, the first major hit to that. We had Anthony and Bailey with an overall rank of 8th, but that had to do with my overranking of them. So we bid farewell to Anthony and Bailey, and we bid farewell to this podcast. But first, we must cross the finish line.
To cross the finish line, I want to comment on some of the accessories that I'm noticing this episode. Number 1 being the raincoat in a bag brought by Danny.
Shout out Danny.
I liked it. I liked it a lot. It was compact. It was quick. It was just shoom, like one swift motion. Loved it. An accessory I was not too fond of. Bizzy's sunglasses.
Oh,
Holy moly.
They're like Macho Man, Randy Savage, like
Those Oakleys, I just didn't understand it. I just didn't understand it. Maybe like the sportiness she was going for.
Yeah, but they don't have
But,
beach
like,
volleyball in Wisconsin.
I was confused. That's all.
So for my crossing the finish line, I want to just think about if I were a super fan and if I were to be asked on the race, thinking about Danny, I am constantly feeling that he is underachieving because of who his partner is. And I want to just acknowledge / think about, like, why would you choose your mom? Like,
I thought the same thing, Josh. I thought the same thing.
This poor kid, like, he's good and he's smart and he's competent, and he's just constantly being
She's just dead
out.
weight.
Dead weight. And maybe there is strategy to having her do a lot of these challenges while they can fall a little bit behind, because once you get later in the race, he's gonna have to do every one of the detours to keep up. Which hopefully maybe that's something that they're thinking about. But yeah, I just kept thinking to myself, why out of all of the billions of people on this planet, you choose someone who is just not fit for running this race. There was a moment that she did yell at him a little bit that I appreciated also. He was saying that collaborating with people is important. And she had a brilliant response. And she said, but they can beat us in a foot race. Why would you collaborate with a team that can beat you in a foot race? And that's when I was like, yes, Mom, you know the rules. Maybe there is some purpose to having you here.
Shout out Angie.
Shout out Angie.
I will close us out by crossing the finish line here. I hope that this season does two things. Number one, it makes the casting people rethink casting twins because they're twins. Like, there are twins out there that are compelling and competitive and have a lot of traits that are going to lend themselves to good television and good racing. And there are some that are not. And the second thing is, I hope that the designers of The Amazing Race rethink and retweak and really put some time and research and ask fans and do their strategic planning to try to come up with some new tweaks to evolve the race.
They should really be consulting with us.
We are available. Send us an email, tribalcouncilblog@gmail.com. We are open to providing any and all feedback, and just send us an email at Amazing Race and we will respond. But that's the truth. In all honesty, we have speed bumps, we have yields, we have the double U-turns. What was it? The voting U-turn that was in last season. That was a major change or a little tweak. Or even just the viewer experience. Like, rethink it. Show us how far apart the teams are. Show us how long they've been on a certain detour, right? How long was Danny and Angie's boat issues actually, right? Show us that staircase on the left side and show us the colored dots where they're at on it. Give us more information, and so we can fill in these gaps and just be more invested and have a greater fan experience, because charter flights and new wrinkles and cooking in the street and cherry picking, it's just not amazing. On that note, we say thank you, Nicole, thank you, Josh, thank you to our supporters out there. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe at Tribal Council Blog on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Check us out. Leave a comment. What are your thoughts on this episode? Were they as bad as we thought it was? If not, tell us why. We'd love to hear from you. And we'll be back next week with hopefully a better episode, a more exciting episode, and we will cover it right here on the ReRACEables Podcast. We'll see you next week.